Good viewer, you are watching Xirtus.
This next story has been suppressed by mainstream media. Let's go to Andreas for more.
Everybody, tune in to Recent Tartarians.
Recent Tartarians. Recent Tartarians.
Hello. Welcome to the Xirtus. Tune in for another exciting episode of wonder, imagination, and discovery.
Recent Tartarians.
Она образует всеобщие закономерности, определяющие законы классической физики для нашего
Sometimes I
мира.
look at the moon and just think, the skin's beautiful. Baby, when I met you, there was peace unknown.
Что касается энергии наномира, то она превышает ядерную в немыслимое число раз. 10 в 74 степени.
That's it. That's it. That's it. With your arms now. That's it. That's it.
Thank you for watching Xirtus. Keep listening. Remember, if you enjoyed the video, please follow and subscribe and share and support. It really helps. Coming up next, Xirtus.
By the way, that's gone. If you didn't record that, that's gone forever. It's gone.
I was gonna let you intro. Yeah.
Welcome everybody. This is Neuropa. How's everybody doing?
Pretty
How
good,
are
but
you,
I didn't get the echo. The echo didn't go through that time. If you want to try again, I don't know if it's a big deal.
It was a bit of a different type of echo, but actually we can try it again. I should sound like a robot, maybe.
Not yet.
Am I sounding like a robot?
No, it's all
Not
completely
yet.
normal. I don't know.
sounds-
That's not bad. You sound great. Completely normal.
But now I should sound like a robot.
This is hilarious. No,
Is it working?
It's not working at all.
Still not working. Oh,
It's actually funnier to hear you just say that. It's feel like, and now I sound like Elvis Presley. You know.
yes. And now I sound like the last Austrian emperor. No.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, well, we'll play around with the voice mods another time. How are you doing, Andreas?
Pretty good. How are you, man? Good day. Nice sunny day. It's probably evening
Yes, it's evening by now. It's getting, well, now it's cold again, but it's, the weather is diverse, let's say.
there. It's amazing how few people spend time tracking the sun. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like that would be a thing. Like, yep, we see the sun. It's coming. It's gonna be morning here soon. And like, they're like, I feel like that's why there isn't like solar race. It seems like a show.
Yeah, well, I think we'll get to the sun a bit later today. But
Okay.
So, yeah, what we have today, I brought a few links. We only had about a week, so there's not that many
Melissa
things.
tracks the sun. She wants to know what that suspicious thing is up to. I get it. She's like, sorry, we're farmers. Fair enough. Okay. All right. Yeah. Well, the link page is here. I think you have to press Shift 6. There you go.
Yeah, so here we go. So what we're starting with, just something nice to look at. Look at this. Did you know,
Pretty.
and of course you knew about this, I don't know if I knew about this, that lightning can not only come from above, but it can also come from below, and it kind of looks like this.
Yeah. I loved it when I was driving across Argentina. One time I was in a bus ride for what? Like it took like 4 or 5 days of driving. And we were going across west to east, a little bit north. I think it was like southwest to northeast. And we ended up crossing like for 3 days in a bus. And like there's one of the biggest storms that happened in Argentina in that decade or century. And it was just, apparently it happens though all the time. There's these giant, spiderweb lightning volt kind of everywhere. But the volcano thing was like, well, okay, these are the highest points in these long plains, right? Like everywhere else is a flat area. So of course it's going to hit the top of the mountaintop, which is the volcano. But that just seems pretty obvious that there's going to be some sort of energy exchange between that. That seems pretty crazy.
Right. Actually, take it a most simple way. What is this? This is electric discharge, but I mean, my understanding of electricity and all these things is much too little to understand what this could, refer to or not, or what this could even mean. Like, why would there be lightning bolts coming out of a mound?
What's the difference between the polarity that there's something is so positive and something so negative, right?
Yeah, but in any case, it looks pretty amazing. So I just wanted everyone to take a look. And of course, still the open question, what is a volcano exactly? Which of these mounds maybe are some type of ancient mining sites? What does this really have to do with whatever plasma, magma? I wouldn't dare to make an assumption about that. So then if we go on, here we are somewhere else. Actually, I want to really shout out this channel. This is Jordan. I think we've been maybe even on a show with him together at some point. He's doing really amazing videos and really high quality editing, but as so often, so please everyone go, give him a like and a subscribe. Quality doesn't necessarily immediately get rewarded. What's very interesting here, and I'll be honest, I didn't watch all of it yet, but knowing Jordan and just zipping through this, I can tell there's really a depth of information here. This is about ayahuasca and about the actual composition of ayahuasca, and even, including all types of different mainstream news, then later even including McKenna, as you can see, and explaining different factors that are associated with the ayahuasca wine, the MAO inhibitors, and especially also explaining how it's actually not only DMT, but it's like a whole pharmacy of plants. So it's almost like ayahuasca, if I understand this correctly, is like an overall vehicle to deliver all kinds of medicine to the body. And of course, in the West, or I guess anywhere else, the view is often quite one-dimensional in terms of what this actually is. Yeah. I don't even know. I don't know if you ever had any experience with this, but yeah. So just basically to point out, this is not only something fun for Silicon Valley CEOs to go do in the jungle, but there's actually, a whole array of knowledge, culture, and science behind this in terms of the composition of that plant. I can only, what can I say? Recommend everyone to learn about it, because it's certainly one of the most potent mixtures of plants that at least I'm aware of. So yeah, anyone who wants
I feel like what I've noticed, dude, do you ever run up and down a hill? So I have a hill here that's like my hill where I live in Santa Cruz. So like there's a creek and I'm at the top of the hill, and the road is like it's like that. It's just freaking nuts. Like cars can't get up it. It's more like it's like you wouldn't want to climb the thing, kind of a hill, right? But it's you can't really run it too well, but you can walk it, And I feel like if I walk my hill, I feel like I dream more. I feel more alive. I feel like people don't get enough exercise, just so obviously. Like people are not getting enough exercise, and they're like, "Dude, if you just take like some DMT, man, you're gonna feel like you exercise." I mean, not quite, but like, you know what I mean? I feel like you get a lot out of exercise, and people don't realize if you're just healthy, you're gonna be producing so much natural hormones, melatonins, tryptamines, everything like that, that you're probably okay in a way that people don't know. Granted, there's a lot of places where you're not getting proper nutrition and maybe your body isn't producing the correct maybe you need to take vitamins and things like that. But even that, I think you can get to a state where your body is naturally producing all those things is probably ideal.
Well, without a doubt, I think
Raph's like, well, obviously, if Captain Genius. Okay, America. Yeah, okay, fine.
If the overall endogenic DMT and endocannabinoid production was properly supported in all human living system, I'm pretty sure everyone would be in a better mood and a bit more open-minded and everything.
It's a no-brainer. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
So that's what I say. But yeah, of course, you can do all of these things by yourself, and even, I'll say it again, with any type of these psychedelic excursions, it cannot be overstated how important it is that you use your own discernment and really know who you're doing what with, because there's too many people, claiming they have knowledge or good intent, and they do all kinds of crazy stuff, as I mentioned before.
So, Will says it sounds like an ideal spot. I agree.
Up and down the hill.
What's cool about it Excuse me. What's cool about it is that it's impossible for most people to get to. And, you know, it's like if there was a flood, it's like above the flood. But what's awful about it is that it's impossible for people to get to. So, you know, like you're not going to have ever, I mean, yeah, being off grid's great. Just different.
Yeah, exercise definitely a nutrient, and even just the idea that, as I always like to bring up, almost everything that increases the oxygenation of your system, where there are many factors involved in your blood cells being able to properly transport oxygen. But that's basically the thing, because as we brought up on shows before, with the Krebs cycle, strange name, especially because Krebs in German is Krebs, which is cancer. But anyways, interesting connection here. But as I brought up before, with the energy cell production, the most simple differentiation that everyone learns at school and high school in biology, I believe, is, you know, whether or not your cells have oxygen available, and that's basically determines whether the mitochondria are able to produce just a few ATP or like plenty. And guess what makes a difference? How much energy currency there is available within your system. So.
All right. Melissa says you got to be up that hill. Yeah, it's true. I mean, like Melissa, you're right. Like if I only could, I'd make a deal with God, you know, and I'd get him to swap our places, and I'd be running up that road. You'd be running up that hill. We'd be running up that building, yo. Say if I only could. Sorry, I don't know if you like Kate Bush. Run up that hill. All right. No.
Yes. So
if I only could, I'd make a deal with God, and I'd get him to swap our places. All right.
Which song is this?
Running up that road, be running up that hill, be running up that building, yo. Say if I only could, I'd make a deal with God. No, you don't know that one? It's like the best. It's like one of the best Kate Bush songs ever, yo.
Yes, I know it. Okay, so I'm not sure how the window somehow vanished. I'm not sure if I can bring it back, or only you can bring it back.
No,
it says remove at the stage.
Yeah.
Oh, here we are.
You have all the power, bro.
Okay. Yeah. So what we have here, the title basically says it all. What I'm a little bit surprised about is that this is on a YouTube channel, and this has now 311,000 views. So basically just looking at potential, I'm even only gonna say correlations, unfortunately, between the thing they gave everyone and apparently some people now having cancer. What I also recently read was a study, or supposedly, you know, God knows if you can trust those, but that about a quarter of US individuals now, quote unquote, regret participating in that program, which I find interesting. I also have heard for the first time now, actually, from someone that they deliberately said, yes, regret doing it. How should I say? In a way, I don't know, sad or whatever. At the same time, it should be known to everyone, all of those things, from what I understand, can be detoxed. You know, find your most trustworthy practitioner, or ask around, or take a good look. There's, you know, different protocols and all kinds of things. So it's even here, it seems it's not a one-way thing, even though unfortunately it seems that, you know, it's not dangerous. So anyhow, I was just curious that there is someone, you know, talking about these kind of things, and yeah, not getting struck or anything. So that's pretty cool.
I got those antibodies, right?
People commenting, nobody regretted not having it.
Well, so about a week ago, my East German exchange student who I grew up with, I think I told you this already, but like he came to visit with his family, which is really cool because, you know, he came right after the wall came down. And so to see California in 94, you know, 93, 94, or 5, that kind of the early times there after the wall, California was as disappointed, I think, as East Germany was. No, like, I mean, we really wanted socialism to turn out. We were really like, we had like comic books. We like believed so bad, like maybe not in Russia, you know, maybe in California and San Bruno, but we had a lot of Russia influence back and forth. Anyway, he was such a believer in the system, but his dad was like like part of managing the building of the Berlin Civic Auditorium and all this important architecture and construction. His son, you know, Jan was going to be an amazing swimmer. He is an amazing, he's a karate swimmer, super, like, it's like a Japanese superhero from East Germany. But they were going to get him to be on the swim team, the East German Soviet swim team, before the wall came down. And somebody who knew his dad suggested him, like, don't do this, you know, like, don't, like, you're probably not going to want your son, like, they really work him hard and they put stuff in the water, and you got to be careful about the stuff they put in the water. And this is right around the time when they, unbeknownst to Andrea, what's her name, who was transgendered through testosterone hormones as a female swimmer for the East German team, right? People given so much hormones. They didn't even know what was going on. So she goes by Andreas now. It's me. No, I'm just kidding. But there are examples with the East German team with the drugs. And he learned like to be kind of black-pilled by that. And it's interesting. We could talk about this a little bit later, but in Germany today, how the Green Party, you know, kind of like in the 30s has taken over the country again. And the East Germans are looked at like they're not going with the flow. They don't go with the wave in East Germany. And so this idea, oh, they talk weird, they look weird, and you know what? They're not woke. So what do we say in America if someone's not woke? We say they're fascists, or they're like, you know, we use the N-word, right? We call them the N-word in America. I mean, a different one, but that is what's going on in Germany. The East Germans are called Nazis now, essentially, for not being Nazis. That's it's the perfect poetic justice. The whole point of the story is, my mom, who's a big believer in vaccines, she's like trying to force everyone, you know, like she thinks we should do it like the way we talk about it. Like, hey, it doesn't matter if it works. It's on principle. And so Jan says, wait, so is that to say that you're not vaccinated? I'm like, oh, no, of course not. And he like gets up, stands up and high fives me in front of his daughters, in front of like the family. So like clearly something's happening. Clearly there is a huge reaction against vaccines that are happening like ideologically. And it's happening in front of people. And the people that used to be, you know, hey, we have to force you, they're being the ones told you have to, you know, believe what you want to believe privately. You're the one who has a weird religious belief. And I think that's beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, there could be, maybe, I'm not sure, maybe there could be something said for proselytizing, they call it, no? So, you know, or I'm not sure, secularization. Isn't there always this talk about separating church and state? And then only the question is, when do we recognize at least some versions of science as a religion or zealotry? So
these are interesting. Like, you know, the Temple of Satan.
Well, I wish I didn't.
You know the Temple of Satan, Raph. I seen you there. No, I'm just kidding. The Temple of Satan is like this new, like, if you think about the Church of Satan and like all that, there's like different directions you can go.
Oh, so this is something different from the Temple of Set.
Everybody's different. Everybody thinks they're special. Come on, Raph. You've got this idea that there is Anton LaVey Satanism, which is maybe kind of like middle path. It's like there's a little bit going on there, but for the most part, it's kind of a joke. And then you've got the so like serious it hurts stuff that's a little outside of there. Like we're talking about like Temple of Set and beyond. You know, there's Order of the Nine Angles and things like that. There's groups where you like beyond that stuff where you have to actually do like violence and pain to people, which is banned in the Church of Satan. But in the Temple of Satan, the Temple of Satan basically started out as a troll, as a joke. It's like, well, if they're going to put up the 10 Commandments from that movie with Charlton Heston,
Church of the Subgenius.
Yeah, it's like on that level. But however, as it's gone on, more and more people started believing in the idea of being the adversary. And so the adversary, it's actually adjacent, I would say, to the Church of Satan. But anyway, they have some rules which are kind of interesting. One of them is about science. Rule 5, beliefs should conform to one's best scientific understanding of the world. One should take care to never to distort scientific facts to fit one's beliefs. I feel like Rule 5 is really interesting for the temple of the Satanic Temple, because this idea that you should believe in your belief should conform to scientific understanding.
Well, maybe it comes back to the same thing. Just like the question is a good Christian acting according to his own principles, and is a good Satanist acting according to his principles? And since none of them apparently are, that's the problem, right?
That's actually like, I kind of want to get, you know how people have like the Lance Armstrong, like which drug would Lance Armstrong take bracelet? You know, I want to have a bracelet that says like, if you get arrested for being a Christian, would there be enough evidence to prove it? I think or something on that level would be
good one.
I feel like that's America right now. But But yeah, I know the idea of the reason I bring that up is because the idea of beliefs conforming to scientific understanding versus never distort scientific facts to fit one's beliefs. How can you do that? Can you? Because isn't science essentially empiricism? And how much can you trust in your own empiricism versus the metrics of tools? That's like a whole, I have to study more on. I'd like to hear people talk about that smarter than myself about what they believe about the value of tools and metrics and instruments.
Yes, there are a lot of questions, but I think the main thing would even be, am I even interested in investigating these assumptions and perception and belief filters I may have? So even if you have two scientists interpreting the exact same data set, they could come up with different conclusions depending on their beliefs, and which could be fine. The only question is, are they willing to admit to those and compare the notes and so on? And I think that's more the point, whether there's a willingness even to understand that, or whether there's deliberate ignorance and be just like, no, it's like this. Don't question it, because it's basically going to hurt my belief system, which has nothing to do with whatever actual data there may be to be interpreted, right? But the whole question I do, and I've been wondering about this myself recently, there is this quote from systems theorist, which by now we know the whole cybernetics conference also seems to be a New World Order program, neutrally speaking. There is the whole question of objectivity and hierarchy. So Heinz von Förster basically says there is no objectivity and there is no hierarchy, and we make up these things because in truth all of those supposedly objectified ideas are actually attributes of the observer himself. So just again, with the example that I gave, no matter what scientific data, perception, study, no matter what you have, you always have an individual interpreting it. And I'm not sure if we can even get around that at all. And that even extends to the idea of religion and beliefs or ideas about God. When do you ever have any conceptualization of God that has not gone through a human filter at all?
Yeah.
I would say, unfortunately, that's impossible. And then
because
that's
the thing, because like one of them, I mean, on a deep level, that's true. But you could try to like proxy mitigate that by using instruments, right? Like you're saying these instruments, but then you have to see how you interact with those instruments. But you can have other instruments that can measure levels and data. So, I mean, that's the thing. Like, how far can you remove it from the anthropic perspective, so that you are using so many other tools and instruments? But then what happens? Because then people say, well, now you're not even looking at reality. Now you just are showing me like graphs and charts and telling me that there's a black hole.
Yeah.
Yes. That's the thing. I don't know.
Yeah, not gonna solve it now, but just to point it out. So we can move on. So let's see the next thing. Oh yeah, here, just a cool guy. Dr. Bruce Lipton. Oh no, I thought, and here I thought I was already skipping the ads for you guys, but they come up again.
For shame.
So is and it's coming up again. See?
Oh, fiddlesticks. Fiddlesticks. I got a whole list of ChatGPT alternatives to the F word here. Oh, futs.
All right. So fragging.
Fragging flumph and foxtrot flappadoodle. Raph?
So this is Dr. Bruce Lipton. He's, I'm sure we spoke about him before. He's done great research on epigenetics. He was apparently one of the first stem cell researchers who then came up with the whole idea that beliefs may actually influence your epigenetic expression. And I believe even on a very superficial experiential level, this can be proven in terms of you can see how people live and how balanced and happy they are. And it does seem to have an effect on you, however, how much their skin glows and this and that. And it only makes sense that the genetic expression would be versatile enough to change according to external stimuli. And then this brings in not only environmental poisoning and so on, but most certainly also just, again, belief systems. What is your perspective on life? Just as people know, if you have a child, whatever, you're more likely to stay alive because you have care and so on. Care, this wonderful Jesuit principle that also you like to bring up, I think.
It's useful.
So definitely there's connections there. So just, to bring him up again, and definitely check out his presentation called Biology of Belief. It's like an older presentation, but there he kind of explains how these things tie together, belief systems and genetics, which ultimately is only a very empowering message, because it would, oh my God, it would basically mean that we have a lot more control over our genetic expression, and we're led to believe. And there is not really such a thing as, oh, I inherited this disease and I'm just waiting to get the same problem. Usually these are more inherited traumata, and then I'm replaying whatever my dad did or something, and then similar issues occur. But this is not really because it's in my code, but just because I'm following along a similar life path. So there is a lot more agency that people are led to believe.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure.
Then we have something more on biology. Yeah, this maybe is interesting. I didn't investigate this properly yet here to talk about glowing shots. I mean, there have been talk about something being fluorescent, and this whole thing have to be more looked into. Yeah, again, not to fearmonger. There's detox protocols. Ask someone who you trust, and yeah, what to say. Here we have our favorite friend. I like to bring her up every time now because I get her videos recommended.
I know she's getting even better thumbnails. I wonder how much. I feel like she must be paying someone to do her thumbnails and everything. Like, it's just like, wow.
Yeah, she's like on top, and I always wonder with this individual, like, how did she even get to 1 million subscribers? I mean,
who is she?
I think it's amazing.
What is she?
Yes?
Yeah.
And even she's explaining on some video like why she left. She called it the academic cult or something like that. So she's maybe even how should I say, conspiracy analyst at heart or something.
She's gonna make it
up to some things, but let's see. Past still exist, or it was a more recent one. Anyway, so she has all these cool videos. Here it's funny because she says she's worried about AI, and then I just saw this very good this comment which I really like, and I think this at least sums up a part of it. Yeah, so there a guy says he's a computer linguist, and now I zoomed in too much, so the comments are gone.
She contributes to the Forbes column, Starts with the Big Bang, and to the Guardian, as well as Quantum Magazine, New Scientist, Nature Physics, Scientific American, Nautilus Quarterly, and Physics Today.
Oh, she's up there. So anyhow, the comment here, because she's mainly talking about LLMs, and here says computer linguist. I think there's a big misconceptions, and maybe Andreas will comment on this. LLMs have a static training method which doesn't allow for continuous learning or implementing things which have been learned by interaction. Yes, they have a token-based context window which remembers some details of the current interaction, but that doesn't mean that it learns in any traditional sense. When you want to interact with a model, you always use a snapshot of the system, which is static. Also, the term AI, and here I would very much agree, is misleading. LLMs really are not as scary and much more controllable than you may think, since they have nothing to do with anything like real intelligence, which is capable of having a continuous stream of information and also implementing these new information into their innerst workings. There's
Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, there's also some interesting work of Anthropic on their model Claude, where they gave special regions of the neural network a higher weight, which resulted in very interesting behavioral changes. And you guys in love with her, so that's also good. I'm not saying that LLMs as a tool in the wrong hands aren't extremely dangerous, though. Yeah.
Well, I don't feel like it's fair to compare ChatGPT to an LLM anymore. I don't think it really is just an LLM anymore. Like, it's a system that has.
Blake Lemoine would disagree.
ChatGPT, OpenAI is a system that has LLMs, but it's like, I mean, you could call Google in 2002, you could call the Google search queries features an LLM, basically, by that logic. And so you would say then that things like today that people are used to, like Bing and all these like ChatGPT 3, those were the peak apex point for LLMs. And we're like, wow, this is what an LLM can do, but there's problems there. And some of those are that, like, someone asked, like, can an AI take drugs? Well, AI, that's a good description of what an LLM is. It's like a psychopath on drugs, because it's just when someone's on drugs and they're thinking not naturally, not normally, and not having proper weights and things are thrown around, creative things happen. And that's really, can be great. It could have problems, but that's a major reason people are so interested in talking to the drugged out ChatGPT. What's changed in GPT-4 is especially GPT-4o and everything, is the introduction of learning systems, recursive neural nets, which are designed to check for data points either in the person they're talking to. So I've done conversations with ChatGPT where they put up a disclaimer about a month ago that says, like, by the way, now it searches across your conversations and everything like that. They have a way now of accessing all of your prior conversations, who you are, what they know about you. Surprised, And so they're going to be making, I say, make this thing about a thing. I said, like, make a song about, I forget what it was, like, make like a pop song about, I forget. Point is, it added all this stuff about Santa Cruz and the beach and where I'm from and things like that I never told it in that conversation. It's like, wow, that's kind of the first thing that, like, tipped me off that this is happening. So on one hand, it's able to know who it's talking to. On the other hand, now I could ask it questions where it used to be like, is this true? And, like, depending on what style of conversation you start with the thing, it will care to find out where it heard that information, when the last time it asked about that it was, and who that person's credibility level is with what groups. And it says, okay, well, this is the mainstream opinion, so I'm going to go with that, whatever. But you could easily be, like, asking it to follow a different protocol, and it will find a different system to look for. And so it's not just indiscriminate anymore. It's not the way it used to be. It has a much more discriminating taste, right? And that's something we were spending so much time telling people not to learn about how to stereotype and to classify people, places, and things, while AI was becoming really good at nuanced stereotypes, right? And the next major one will be, like, how much you can trust somebody or how much you can trust some information, right?
Page rank?
Yeah, basically. That's a good question, though. What's going to be the alternative to PageRank, right? Because obviously PageRank isn't. You can game the system, so PageRank won't be the way that they test it. It might be more like run a simulation, try the information, see if it works in the simulation. Test it first. Test all things, hold fast to what is true.
Yeah, the only thing is, if you test it in a simulation, well, anyhow.
True.
Okay, let's see where else. Oh, okay. So this is something, now we're going into the, political. Actually, this is related very much to what you mentioned earlier about the East Germans and who is an. I wish I was. I'm not gonna say either of those words, but because both of the N words to me actually are just kind of funny.
Nietzsche.
But anyhow, so what Nietzsche? so what you have here, this is something pretty interesting. So we just talked about, who people maybe is regretting it or not, or what is going on. And this is actually, because here says Corona, but this is actually an art project. So this is a commentary by these guys. Anyone who speaks German and probably has already seen it, them, they do, like, news shows. I often would wish they would go, deeper into topics, but that's why people, I guess, come to Neuropa or other shows. So more like, let's say, superficial but interesting commentary. And they also had a critical stance during the whole lockdowns and so on. And, just two nice guys commenting on whatever's, popular. And what's very interesting here, so this is an art project of the, like, Vienna art scene. This just happened during the Wiener Festwochen, which is like every year you have this art festival and whatever they're doing, I don't even know. But one of the things they did like a mock persecution, not persecution, but how do you call it? A mock trial. And funnily enough, the mock trial was about the right-wing party in Austria, which is the FPÖ, the Freedom Party, which, of course, by the logic you described, since they are the most right-wing party of any, even in existence or any relevance, they are quickly labeled all kinds of things, even though, as the Overton window has shifted so much, basically someone who would be called right-wing today easily could have been a classical liberal, 30, 40 years ago or whatever, right? We talked about this before.
Let alone like nationalist, socialist,
please.
100 years ago. What was that, Raf? Is that left or right? What do you call socialism?
But this is actually something that's being discussed here, which is partially why I bring it up. So I think if people look at this and they take the subtitles, then it should be understandable what's going on here.
So many great languages there.
Let's see. All right, so here it starts. It's kind of funny. They start the conversation, and who this is also very interesting. So it's just like I don't even know how many. It's like a bingo of, I don't know, New World developments. So this individual is transgender.
Who's this beef tank? Yeah.
So this is Monica Donna, originally born as a male, and now for many years living as a female. What she did, which is very interesting, and what I often find, I have to say, even recently on Nachiketa's channel, there was a great conversation where a transgender individual came on who had, in this case, detransitioned, but was also from an older generation. I know 2, 3 maybe acquaintances more of transgender individuals that are of an older generation. And what I find very interesting is that they often are very moderate, very considerate in their statements, and a lot more self-reflective than whatever the new generation of super woke, I don't know, under 30 or however you would say it, where this whole craziness really broke loose. So they have a much different perspective even on the whole transgender thing. And in her case, what she did in 2012, which I think is cool actually, is because she wanted to live as a woman and actually fought it through in the courts that you do not need to physically allow someone to operate on your body in order to redefine your gender. So to say, okay, I really want to live as a woman for whatever reason in this, age that it is possible, but it doesn't mean I need to undergo a physically harmful treatment, right? Just like you would say with circumcision or whatever, and here, of course, even worse. So I think that's actually kind of cool, because then at least someone could say, okay, I want to redefine myself or something. I don't need to biologically have an operation, which of course also makes it tremendously easier if I ever should make a different decision later, right? To do that, yeah. So, but here, what is it about is this individual for many years was in the military as a man, then switched to the Ministry of Interior as a, not as a judge, but how do you call it? As a legal expert, let's say. She was working for many years for the budget, let's say the flexible budget of the Austrian military, whereas she could also see in what a desolate state the Austrian military is. She made analyses and wrote books even in 2015 predicting upcoming issues with Russia, predicting upcoming conflicts and so on. Of course, as you can imagine, the entirety of the Austrian public, parliament, politicians all ignored her. Even warning about the immigration and showing that certain things here are planned and deliberate and problematic. So done very good analyses for many years, which were ignored. And here, this mock process is about this Freedom Party and what they talk about. So I'll just let it run. People can read along with it a little bit. Is they talk about not about banning the party, but they say, no, it would only be about removing the funding for that party. And then, of course, she's pointing out, well, if you would remove the funding, then that's as good as banning a party overall. Here, the very first, they started in a fun way because they said, oh, please raise your hand. And she's like, no, I'm not going to raise the hand because maybe you're going to think I raised the wrong hand. And you can tell the persecutor, I mean, I don't know. To me, she's not incredibly sympathetic, I have to say, asking questions in a strange way. And what's also pointed out by her, actually, is when she's getting introduced, which is very interesting, they deliberately say, oh, she was born as a man under the name Alexander or whatever else. And then the first thing she replies is, oh, how curious. Whenever I'm invited at the Freedom Party, which here you want to make out to be a threat to democracy and all of that, when I was ever introduced there, they never brought up my birth name as a man, so they never even made it like an issue. So like, what is this? This is supposed to be the super left-wing liberal woke thing, but then there's someone up there who they don't like, and then they make this completely unnecessary thing like, oh yeah, by the way, actually you were a man, just to let you know, which I don't care about that topic too much, but it's not exactly respectful and not necessary at all in that context. Yeah, and
yeah, it's actually kind of cool that like that's one of their own that's like outing, whistleblowing essentially. Like they're like, hey, aren't you supposed to be like going along with our program because you're patently, materially the way you look, we think we own you. I mean, that happens a lot in America. That's basically that's exactly how it goes.
Even they ask her like at the very beginning. And again, this is just a mock trial, but still they ask her like, oh, and what is your job? or you have a job or something? And she's like, yeah. And then like, can you tell me what job you have? Almost like, I mean, even if you do a mock trial, but obviously you have to know what job she has and that she's, you know, been working at the ministry and writing books, doing very good analyses. So like really pretending.
A lot of people that are trans, like, I mean, I've met a lot of people that are trans, and they tend to be the way I engage with people is that they are brilliant. I feel like in general, like, so then to find out, like, if you're a game designer who's neurodivergent and you turn out to be a programmer who's trans, like, I've met people quite often who are interested in transgenderism, like consider themselves non-binary throughout the years, right, in California. And a lot of them are very smart. Like, you could say what you want about anything else, but a lot of them are very good, like great programmers. And yeah, maybe again, this is maybe the term should be neurodivergent, but we have this idea about what gender should be. So people a lot of the time the people I know who are transgender came from some sort of a really hung up, uptight background, similar to Church of Satan people. They're in a lot of the time in active rebellion against something, right? And so I feel like if you didn't force the idea of a man being a football player and a woman being a cheerleader to them, they probably wouldn't have been so uptight, you know, like realistically.
It's so often an artificial pendulum swing, whereas I think many things that are deliberately weaponized today in a bit of a different, more relaxed society just wouldn't be an issue.
Hey, bro,
at all.
and New York and the South. Don't get me wrong. The South is full of trans, and it's pretty interesting. You'll be surprised maybe, but like the whole world's full of trans people. Like, it's not, there's a lot of people out there. I feel like I was really interested when I went to Cordoba and I saw how much Nivea cream and body spray from Axe deodorant was being used. I'm like, man, ticking time bomb.
Where?
I'm telling you, Cordoba is a big city in Argentina. In Argentina, it's like the philosopher like university city in Argentina. And I remember like looking at people.
Are you connecting this to Axe spray, like as
because I'm from Back to the Future. Hold on a second. No, I'm from Back to the Future. So anything I've seen in California or in America, right, like Monsanto or RBST in the milk or whatever, I've seen it happen in America. I saw ham and cheese Hot Pocket Lunchables. I've seen it all, you know. And so when it comes to your country, and I'm like, oh, like it's like Marty McFly when he's watching a rerun. Like, I've seen this one before. I know exactly I know like the range of birth defects that are likely to happen in Mendoza, right? And I know like how many more people are now identifying as trans in Argentina after 20 years. It's interesting. Maybe that's not to say that we should like directly connect those things.
Yes. So what I actually want to bring up here is just.
Oh, wait. Also, someone brought up Pitch Perfect 2, and I just wanted to say, did you read that article about how Pitch Perfect 2 was financed by the Mossad?
I don't know what Pitch Perfect 2 is, to be.
Oh, yeah. Because you have to have seen Pitch Perfect 1, and you probably haven't. I'm sorry for that, Raf. No, it's about an a cappella group in a college. It seems super innocuous, but the fact that Mossad financed it is pretty nuts.
So, if I may, let me make the point because of what you had mentioned earlier. So here now we can read with it a little bit, and I think already here the one main point I wanted to bring up is being exposed. So here in this mock trial, again, keep in mind, done by the, let's say, leftist Vienna cultural scene. I'm not sure where they brought this persecutor or judge from, which then also makes you wonder if this is the supposedly neutral judiciary. Well, anyways. But I think actually she's a persecutor, so she would be a lawyer. So then, you know, you can have any personal views that you want, but I guess, or I hope no one here has the illusion of anybody really being able to be perfectly impartial, especially in positions of power today, unfortunately. Anyhow, so here she's asking the question. The FPÖ is the Freedom Party. And she's now asking about it, and then Monica will give an interesting answer. I'll just put it on low so I myself know what they're talking about. So is the Freedom Party anti-democratic, and does it threaten democracy? And please, you know, tell me why or why it doesn't. And then I think her reply is pretty interesting.
I'm not hearing the sound. Oh, maybe you want to read it. Should we? Because it's true.
I'm sorry. So, all right. So basically, she's asking.
Here, go back and I can read it while it's up if you want to start it over.
All right. So let's see where we go here. So
I forgot it. I forgot, guys. It's in German, so we're just gonna read it. Yeah.
And you couldn't hear anything?
No. Yeah, I don't have the audio is not coming through. You might want to de-present and represent the tab with audio shared. That might be the way to go.
All right, but I'm not sure if it didn't change anything.
No, it still didn't.
Okay, but it's fine. Yeah, you can just read with
Here,
it.
Send me the link. I can get it up real quick. I'll do this one.
Okay, then I'll
just for
yes.
Just for the people at home that wanna.
Oh, but we'll take the right moment.
Put it into the private chat. Yeah.
See.
Listen to that mouse click, guys. You hear that?
Everyone gets to enjoy the backstage. So it's just a minute, and it's not, but it's funny, I think.
Okay, let's see here.
Put on the CC.
Demokratie.
Oh, I gotta do the subtitles too. Hold on. Subtitles, German, auto translate, English. Okay.
And maybe go back 5 seconds or 10.
Was?
Yes.
Wochen, aber ich gedacht, es geht Corona-Aufarbeitung. Aber ja, bitte. Die Radikalisierung der FPÖ, was? Wie?
So the radicalization of Freedom Party.
Ist die FPÖ antidemokratisch und gefährdet sie die Demokratie?
Nein.
Warum nicht?
Sagen Sie, warum?
Genau, das haben Sie, glaube ich, gehört.
Ja, Ihr Plädoyer,
ja.
Da würde ich empfehlen, der Seite der Verteidigung gegen Sie Strafantrag zu stellen wegen Wiederbetätigung, denn was Sie machen ist, Sie unterstellen eine nationalsozialistische Gesinnung und das ist die Verharmlosung des NS.
Ihre Rolle, Sie sind Zeugin und ich würde Sie ersuchen,
Sie haben mich
auf
gefragt
meine
und ich habe
Fragen
meine Antwort
zu antworten.
Das habe ich getan, das war meine Antwort. Richtig.
Und wie ich es gesehen habe, haben wir gedacht, passt, bin schon Fan. Ich bin ein Fan. Gleich geschissen.
What happened to the CC here? Okay, you can pause it. All right. So basically, the persecution in this mock trial is asking her, so do you think that this is anti-democratic and this Freedom Party is problematic? And then what Monica Donna replies is, actually, in this case, I would recommend, and I'm quoting as verbatim as I can, I would recommend the defendant in this case, so defendant of the Freedom Party, to do a counter suit for, and this is not a light thing, how do you call it? In German, you call it Wiederbetätigung. That's this particular word. So basically, reenactment of Nazi ideology, because you are comparing them and you're making a bad, you're not supposed to do that legally, right? So she's giving a very interesting reply to that. And overall, what this just refers to, and she's even explaining later, like, why was it possible also in very official history. And I believe she's even written books about the First World War, at least, and how this was connected then to the Second World War, and how Americans, and she's always calling them WASPs. I think this is this British agent people, how, everybody was involved in orchestrating everything. But basically just also pointing out how through marginalization, even of that group that then officially took power, it was even possible for these, all of this war and so on to occur. So it's really, how should I say, I shouldn't be surprised about it anymore, but still I somehow am, like, how little logic is applied when ideology takes precedent. And that's just astounding to me. So basically here the argument being that you should not claim that somebody is, outside of a constitution or something like that and marginalize someone. That's like not the way to go. And even if I just, anyhow, for me, logically, this is all non sequiturs, but it's just kind of funny that this is brought out in this mock trial, and you have this very.
So they're doing the mock trial though in order to defeat, to lay a fire line. They're doing this so that people
they're doing
won't.
The mock trial because basically right now, and even here, I don't really trust elections, and even here, and there were recent elections for.
I wish Trump did this before his own trial. He should have a mock trial as an SNL skit.
Well, who knows what really a mock trial actually is, right? It's always a matter of perspective, what is mock and what is not.
He did do the roast, that's true.
There is a recent election, which was, how am I even forgetting which election this was? This was kind of, all right, European elections, of course. And even here you had very strange correlations with the mail-in votes. And there have been analysis by more independent TV channels, and they basically showed that you can almost see a formulaic pattern, which eerily reminds me of certain analyses I've heard about certain US elections already, I don't know, 10, 15 years or 5 years ago, I don't want to lie now, but several years ago, where you could clearly see analyzing parties and percentages, you could even tell it doesn't correlate at all to the general election that people made, like it doesn't match percentage-wise. But not only that, that oftentimes you could even tell, like, oh, it looks like in the mail-in votes, this and that party just by default got 20% plus flat. So almost that you could calculate it back. We're like, I'm sorry, this looks like a effing formula. This doesn't look like organic numbers at all. And now what I'm talking about is the European elections. So anyhow, leaving that aside, the main thing now is in Europe and also in Austria, it looks like the Freedom Party is going to get the first place, basically. France just made official re-elections to make a big show and have the right wing take action here or get the first place or whatever. And it looks like in autumn there will be elections in Austria. And because the Freedom Party was the only vocal opposition to all the lockdown and suppressions, well, big surprise, they're gonna come out on top now, and they're the only ones to, do the slightest of transparency or whatever related to that. I'm not exonerating them or anything at all. To me, they're all just, parties in the same system, but it's just obvious how this is a deliberate pendulum swing that's being engineered. And I just recently spoke with David Ewing Jr., and he even said, oh yeah, now they're making a big joke in France by letting them, now let the right wing come about just to make a show. Yeah. And it's just kind of funny because now for 10 years, the whole political establishment has been like, oh my God, the evil right-wing people and so on, but almost like deliberately engineering and setting themselves and the whole system up for them now in all of Europe to come out on top, whether in France or in Austria, whatever. What this then really means geopolitically and so on, I can't exactly say, but I just think it's so obvious that this is it's a deliberate engineering of just another pendulum swing politically. And
I'm trying to think of that word. I was just talking to Dave about it. We should do it. I really want to do, I know like he just wanted the other, but we should do like a trio with David. I just talked to him a second. He called a second ago. We should do that. But you know what the difference between a primary and secondary market is?
I should, but please explain.
So I was just thinking this earlier because it talks like about like numbers and things like that.
I mean, like with ticket sales, you first buy it and then I resell it to my friend, or what do you mean? Yeah.
Perfect. Exactly. No, that's exactly what I'm getting at. So when you think about the economy, which is probably more powerful than the system of governance at this point is secondary to the primary market. So you can either get individuals to buy sodas, right? Or you can sell your soda to the guy who sells sodas, and that way everyone buys your soda. So you can either get someone to vote for you, or you can sell your vote. Like you can, what do you call that? Where you, in a political, like a dog pay. You put all these interests in political interests and lobbyists, right? So now you have all this extra money because all of a sudden you have these extra votes. That money is associated. It's a direct way to get more people to vote directly. So instead of worrying about what the individuals think, because this is what a lot of people do, is like, oh, well, we don't worry about the primary market. We're going to go directly to the secondary market and convince everybody that they want to buy public, right? We want to get everyone interested in voting for this person. But that's not the way most people get elected. That's not the way most products get sold, right? Like they figure out how to place the thing in everything. So wherever you go, all you see is that product, and then you end up buying it. And speaking of which, yes, Jeremy, congratulations on 100,000 subs. Thank you. Yeah, I would literally say that's actually almost in a reference to crypto, because like he's like, are you paying for subs? No, like you can't. Think about it. Google would like destroy me. Like that would, like they're like the CIA. They're got to be watching everything you do. You can't. I don't think you can really get away with that. Like there's no way that you can. But what you can do is you can primary market. You can be like, okay, the people that are watching my videos who I'm directly going to, like compare that to one video being put in a Thundercats Reddit page. Apparently, just realistically, that's a primary market, right? And so the same thing I think for the European elections, like they're going directly to who they can get to put on the platform in the front, and they're not worried so much about what the people want, right?
I mean, it's just obvious that they basically built up sentiment. So it is obvious that the political establishment in all of Europe for at least the last 5 years, both with the lockdowns and with the Russia oil crisis or whatever you want to call it,
they don't like that taste of that soda in their mouth anymore.
No, what I'm saying is that it's obvious they set everything up because especially in Austria, you have like 5, 6 parties.
Yeah.
And the Freedom Party always says, oh, the others, they're just a uniparty. But unfortunately, in terms of their statements and so on, it's like this. And I'm not even saying that the Freedom Party is so much different or that they're going to be so great or anything. And already from more, how should I say, second and third row activists already, I've unfortunately, of course, heard cases where people really needed help or something. They went to approach them maybe about more edgier topics or whatever. And they were also like, oh, no, we're just going to stay on the surface level just to collect the votes. Everyone's angry at all the other parties. So we're going to win now. So, of course, also for them, it's only political. But even in the video here, which is why, someone who's for some strange reason interested in this, it's just a fractal, is similar everywhere. But even here you have, she's later bringing it up in terms of that also, of course, they're all political actors, basically. And political actors are interested in putting themselves in front and getting power and not necessarily interested in solutions. And even here, there is this good trope about, I think, communism or socialism. Like, yeah, of course, everyone will love me for, building some houses and so on. If before I made sure there's a huge war and everything is destroyed, how to make people love you, or even, and we'll bring this up later, I was rewatching very official, but let's see when we will get to this in a little bit on the back end here. I'm just showing it briefly right now. So this is really interesting because this is the very official, let's say, documentation of Austrian history. But I won't skip over now, so I'll get to it later. But this kind of connects to anybody who's interested in this. Yeah, there'll be more to say about it, so I don't lose my track. But let's just go on from here, I guess, unless you have any
I think this is interesting. I mean, the future, like, let's definitely pay a lot of attention. I think Americans would be, done well to know about what's going on in Austria and Germany this year. The election is interesting. Also, you said it looks like there's going to be an election. Is it not set in stone? Is that what did you mean by it looks like in August?
Oh, no. In Austria, there will definitely be an election because at least so far, I don't think they ever, how should I say, ever since the Second Republic, since 1945, I think they always stuck to their election dates, even though often enough, even the last presidential elections, I think they had to redo it 3 times. They used the wrong glue on the F in mails, and then they had to redo it again. So, yeah. No, the election is going to happen, and it very much looks like the right-wing party is going to get the first place, basically. And just now, the left-wing establishment, who, I don't know, they're not high enough in the lodge to understand that this is deliberate. Of course, they're all getting antsy and going completely crazy because for the last 2 decades, they were used to sitting up high and being like, oh, these evil people that don't like to have unlimited immigration, and all of that, right? And now I guess they're getting antsy because they're getting kicked out. And also because for 30 years, basically, or ever since the Second Republic, you always had the same party ruling the Interior Ministry with the Secret Service and everything. And you can only imagine what they've been up to. And then for only 1 year, the Freedom Party had the Interior Ministry as well. And the guy, even if it's still a charade, but at least to some extent, started to clean up and look through documents. And of course, they didn't like that at all. And I had brought this up a year back or something. Then they had the whole explosion of the government and all kinds of things, just to make sure that no one's going to look too closely at whatever those guys could do free reign for, 30, 40, 50 years with an interior ministry. And then to me, I'm always like, now please tell me what exactly is the difference in terms of power concentration between a democracy and party system set up like this and any type of centrally controlled commissariat or something. like in terms of practical power bases and power structures,
I mean, it
have
looks
a
like
hard time finding the differences.
I think we need to go, like, next time we should go a little deeper into how Germany has transpired over the last 20 years. Really, like especially what changed 5 years ago, like what's happened over the last 4 or 5 years, 4 years really over the COVID period on, and like what is the next page of Europe, because you're looking at what's going on in England and everything, and how they're preparing for a much stronger autocratic Europe, it looks like.
I mean, of course, that would be the perfect thing, that then you have the whole freedom parties, right-wing parties, who were the only ones complaining during the lockdown. They all rise on top, and surprise, they turn out to be authoritarian or something, you know? So
Right,
it could be great. Yeah, of course. I mean,
well, when the Green
there's
Party
no
came
guarantees.
for my milk pitchers, I said nothing because I did not drink milk. But
so here, let's just go through these few things, and we can go through most of the history. I'm not even sure where exactly I found this or why, but I'm not even sure how legal. I mean, it has to be legal.
Thomas wants to vote
this.
for RAF. What we'll do is we'll automate RAF as an all-American AI bot, and then he can run for like the South Carolina representative, the AI version of RAF. RAF AIL, we'll call it.
AI governor. So anyhow, so I somehow found this is an official US document about all kinds of counterfeit and piracy notorious markets. I just thought it's curious that there is a report on this. And it even goes, here you have physical markets, I don't know, even in India, counterfeit watches, you know, whatever things there are. So there's a whole list of counterfeit markets worldwide. I just thought it's funny. Then here, I mean, this is probably some low-level thing and maybe not even as real as it could be, but I'm not sure if you've seen this before. So I think this is only, you know, the surface level one of like bot farms and public perception. And why I think that this is not even very real is because there's still humans sitting there and there's much too few phones. So this must be a very small outfit. But if we can imagine that, you know, some small company can run something like this and make a profit and so on, what can you do if you have a larger, you know, I don't know, cluster systems and I don't know. So just in terms of how to control public perception and what numbers you can trust.
So this guy, wait. So that guy is going on YouTube and subscribing for people, right? Is that like kind of the idea?
Yeah,
like
I guess supposedly
farm?
these are just automated, like liking and subscribing and watching things to.
So
to
my
generate
question is like,
interest.
why wouldn't he just like use AI at that point, right?
Well, exactly. That's what I'm saying. So maybe that's also here why it's all missing context, this and that. Because if this is a real thing, which it could be, you're right. This is much too low level. That's also what I'm saying. So, but it's maybe a nice visualization. Just imagine, you know, this times 1,000 or something in a single building with a few servers, and that's most likely what you could be doing. Yeah. So.
I mean, bro, that's true. Like Silicon Valley, that's what they did at the beginning of when they build their app. Like they have like a whole farm of people, and they're like in India or someplace, and they're like doing that. They're like trying to get everyone to look like they're using the Pied Piper app, right? And that way, people will eventually start to believe that they're using that they've got a thing right there. Like my question with that though is, if you can't see like who, I mean, because like YouTube knows the names of accounts and everything like that, so wouldn't it have to know everybody who's doing that and see that they're actually engaging? So they have to be doing things all the time and make like, I don't know. I mean, it seems like YouTube would be really, I don't know. That's an interesting question though. But because the way I was thinking it worked is that they just decide, like for when I first started my channel was growing as fast as it is now. And then it just stopped because I put out a couple videos that were about, you know, non-heliocentric Earth model and interviewed some people talking about flat Earth with name in their name.
Are you serious?
Yeah, and that was all of a sudden it just collapsed. It collapsed. First, I was getting 40,000. You can look at my early videos, like 40, 50,000 views per video, then 20,000, then 10,000, then 7, 5, 2, 1, right? And so like it was all around the time that BBC and everyone was saying that they're going to stop promoting conspiracy content. My channel was like really clearly marketed as Andreas Disclosure, you know, kind of a thing. So it was just, my channel was screwed. And rather than start a new channel, I just kind of like,
now it's just Andreas Thundercats. Don't worry, it's just kittens.
well, it should, like, because the other thing is a lot of these are my live videos, so they're not my live videos are different than pre-recorded or premieres and things like that. So I don't completely get it either, and I'm just trying to pretend I get it. Like I'm like closing my eyes. I'm like, I hope that this is real. Like it could.
Why would a Thundercat video get 200K, but the equally well-made MK Yugoslavia video only get 2,000? You know,
that's a weird question, Raph. That is a weird question. I don't know. It's also like, why do my narcissistic, self-obsessed videos get less views than a Thundercat video? There's probably like a level to it where I'm like, yeah, I feel like I'm shooting myself in the foot. Yeah, flatline, Donnie Darko calls it. It's totally correct. It was a flatline, and all of a sudden they're like, you can only get this many things. And luckily, like I kept traveling and meeting people and working for Tim and like other places. So I keep meeting other people and creators and getting more content. I feel like just kind of not caring. Like it wasn't really important to me to have more people than the people that I watch because you guys are cool. So I don't know. Like it's interesting that all of a sudden now my channel doesn't feel suppressed, and it's really obvious. There's a lot of other things that have changed too. So the lack of suppression is interesting. The capacity for my videos to get more suggestions has changed everything. But also they're like, I'm watching the videos. They're telling you like, you should watch how to make a thumbnail. Have you noticed?
Yeah, I mean,
I'm trying, YouTube. I'm trying. You know, like, I don't know what you want. I really want to smash the plaque. I'm trying so hard not to like. I'm trying to figure out like that.
What wouldn't that be like? Because I was already thinking, was like, yeah, Andreas, I want to see that, you know, like that play button. It's so amazing, but at the same time,
I really want to smash it so bad.
But then, but if you do that, isn't that like flag burning? And then you completely get, you know,
that's what I'm worried.
YouTube jurisdiction or something. So I'm not sure.
I don't know, man.
Maybe you could put up a video like I accidentally stepped on my play button.
And I love you too, CIA. That's all I can say. I don't know if that's what's gonna happen. Like, what do you want? What do you want? What am I supposed to say? Like, I don't know. At very least, we're talking about like the political disruption in Germany. To the 148 people that can see it right now.
Exactly. So anyhow, all of the 148, you're obviously the elect in the most positive sense.
Yeah. Am I the monarch? The monarch mockingbird?
Who not only have seen the Thundercats video. So yeah, here, of course, this was also a great breakout just to celebrate again the 100K on the Skull and Bones video that you did. We're also
that was huge. That's true. Like the thing is, my breakout was a cool thing.
But maybe, and that's why I'm doing it. Also, you were just talking over each other. We were speculating about that, so maybe that increases the engagement.
I should argue and interrupt you more. Yeah,
people can.
No, I think that one's again. That was another example of a share. Like so, clearly Christians and anti-Christians and people arguing about the Catholic Church. Like really, that was a great example of one that. People could say, look, this is really interesting and important to, you know, but yeah, I feel like once I start doing shorts, like if we start breaking up these videos into 20-minute pieces or less that people can watch, probably that'll help a lot. Let's be honest. Like, you know, it's a format problem.
I mean, it could be, but I have to tell you, as from all the examples I've seen until now, and tell me if I'm wrong, but unless maybe for Mr. Beast or someone who have like super ultra streamlined content. But other than that, I don't yet see a clear correlation between format length, quality of the content, and actual subscriber count and engagement. I don't.
Yeah, really, I feel like live is a little suppressed though. Like live is one of those things where you have to grab people; they have to be into it, and you
also live. At least for me, is not the only way, but from what I can see. At least when doing long live shows, you actually have a chance that people really actively, you know, even see, oh, you're streaming live if someone is subscribed, right? That you actually get it put in front of you. It depends.
Premieres, I feel like premieres are pretty well promoted. I feel like premieres work better because YouTube trusts premiere, especially if when my channel was in a lower subscription count, they'd be like, we want to review a video before you put it up. So doing it as a premiere meant that you were more likely to get, like, as long as you made sure that it was monetizable, then they're going to share it. And so if you have a short video, especially if it's like you took a 2-hour video and you broke it up into 20-minute segments, right? Then they're tight because they're cut between energy and energy. So people do watch those, and that's, I think, a problem with long form content is that it's designed for an older audience maybe, and kids aren't really like looking to engage themselves.
What I just want to say is I also see like very long form content which I don't necessarily see the amazingness in. And
are you talking about that girl? You're talking about that girl. You're talking about Jennifer Nicholson, aren't you?
It can be anything. But they have like, I don't know how many views. It's very long form content and so on, not necessarily super accessible or whatever. And I feel like I still don't see the correlation. So, but yeah.
Dude, Jennifer Nicholson's pretty brilliant, I'll admit. Have you seen her? You haven't seen her channel? Do you not know what I'm talking about?
I don't know her, no.
She's
Sounds
like
an actress.
She is a Disney girl who did, I mean, like Disney princess, but like a real life Disney princess. Look at this. Every episode that she has is at least an hour long. Most of them are 4 hours long. Here's 8.8 million views. 8.8 million views on her rather interesting and expensive to produce rant on the terrible failure of the Star Wars hotel, because she did go spend like $5,000 to go to the Star Wars hotel, and she puts on every outfit she brought to the Star Wars hotel that she could imagine. I mean, this girl, dude, like this is levels of brilliance and autism that like we all should aspire to. But she does these amazing videos that are 4 hours long, and she just sits there. It's just her talking for 4 hours. It works, dude.
Yeah.
Like Alex Jones. It just works. I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. So there is more to it than just, all of these thumbnail factors or whatever. Yeah. But maybe one day, the Google alphabet gods will release their true algorithm and their secret, waiting.
Did I even share? Did I even share her face? Did you see it? This girl, man. 8.8 million views. It's freaking crazy.
Well done, yeah.
God.
Yeah. All right. So next thing, you may actually want to, maybe also you can pull it up just so we can listen in just for a second.
Okay.
I haven't watched this fully. We don't have to even. It's just really cool because it's basically the story of the plantation and how everyone is being told, oh, in your nation state, you have the nicest plantation. Here you're a free man. Let's work together. But we have to respect the order, because without order, there is a big problem. So now we have the misfits and all of that, and just really nicely showing how this, I think quite idiotic cycle is perfectly recreated within, pretty much all modern nation states, and how everyone's being told, oh, you're the best. You have such a good reason to fight each other. And also this, as you can see, is still from the golden ages of YouTube, where things that were interesting actually were able to get views. Recommended to watch for sure. And then now, if you're ready for it, we can get into the really crazy stuff.
Bob Einhart.
So I won't explain the whole case, number one, because I don't have the entirety of it in my head, but I just basically want to point out Nachiketa did this very, very amazing 8-hour, let's say, just presentation of information related to Bob Enyard. And why I'm bringing this up is because on last show I had mentioned the final experiment, and here there is just too many very, very strange connections that are related, and it's just very strange that who is involved, why they make such a big fuss now about going to Antarctica and all of that. I think I'm not going to even try to summarize it, but I can just say anybody who's interested in this recent talk about, Earth shape, let's go to Antarctica. Recently, apparently, even on the Final Experiment channel, a video was released about Neil deGrasse Tyson suddenly wanting to go to Antarctica in December as well. And even, that's the other joke. Guess who else? Who's going to go to Antarctica to prove to everyone who's the most trusted individual that could talk about, let's say, about space and about the Earth, except Neil deGrasse Tyson? Who can you think of? He's actually officially recently also been to space. Who's the best space captain in the entirety of TV?
Jeff Bezos? It's not Jeff Bezos?
No, it's a real space captain, or real if you believe in fiction.
Oh, Captain Kirk, William Shatner.
Exactly. He's also going to go.
They're gonna bring William Shatner on his deathbed to like Antarctica temple so he can
say that. But
he's like 100. I mean, are you kidding me?
Yeah, he's
William
like 93.
Dude.
Anyhow, so that's all the whole talk. So to anyone who's heard about it, is not exactly sure what's going on here and so on, I can just recommend.
He was born 2 years before the Germans marched on Poland, and he's
about to say he was born before the US even knew anything about rockets, right?
Oh my god! Oh my god! That was you cut deep with that one. That was pretty good. Thank you.
So all of these strange things convalescing, strange individuals with very.
That was a flex, Raph. That was a rare flex.
No, I'm just recounting.
Before Americans knew about rockets, where did they learn about it?
Well, that's what I learned from history. I don't know. Anyhow, so we have all these very, very super strange things, and it's just very strange that individuals with this type of connection would advertise for going to some ice sheet in Antarctica. And there have been also on this show and other shows also great analyses as to simply saying only because I can see a light for 24 hours on this particular ice sheet in Antarctica or wherever they're going doesn't necessarily prove the shape of the Earth either way. So the whole thing in itself is not an experiment, it's an observation. And even that is not necessarily conclusive. So it's just very strange. All the names now convalescing around this and this hype. And there's more things, but I don't want to, say one way or another. Please, everyone, just check out the evidence if you're interested in why this is such a big topic now. There's lots of great information here. Some of it even, again, too strange for me. I don't even want to expound on it too much. But then we can go to the next thing, which is equally interesting, maybe. Unfortunately, I mean, this is one of the main, or unfortunately, let's say, the German analyses channels for many years called Trau keinem Promi, which basically means trust no, I want to say actor, but Promi is like a German word, someone who is of prominence. So someone who is how do you call it? A star. Don't trust a star. Don't trust any star. You can see, and even just recently, this is his third channel. He's regularly getting deleted. He had channels, 10, 15 years ago already, mainly showing different symbolism of German rappers and then showing what strange connections they have and what strange clans they're associated with and money and this and that. And here, especially anyone who knows German, but otherwise you can watch with CC. Very interesting. A guy, apparently an Iranian immigrant to Switzerland, making a name for himself in the insurance business and then getting invited, or first wanting to check it out themselves and going to a Freemasonic lodge where they talk about infrastructure, this and that. Where this guy
was it a Masonic lodge or just the Rotary Club? You showed the Rotary Club a second ago.
Yes, first this guy went to a Masonic lodge just to check it out because he was invited, because he was a big shot in this insurance company, I guess, or telecommunications company. Talk over this for 1 second. I'm back in 30 seconds.
All right. Yeah, actually, one thing I was thinking about earlier was because Crypto talking about this. He said, 5-leaf clover, it won't let me find your channel. Click on your account because I'm not a moderator. Oh, well, we can fix that when I get back to the YouTube page. The one thing, though, I found is like some people have a hard time clicking on my video, like, or on my channel. Like it'll be like this video is unavailable sometimes. So I feel like there still is, like, if you're so far removed from me, they can still make it hard for you to find out unless you like meet me and they're like, oh, wait, is he like in physical proximity? I honestly kind of believe that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is what you just mentioned. I wish this were off the table, but we have no way to see how crazily compartmentalized even online it can be, because like you said, everything can appear to be accessible, but if you don't get the recommendation, if then maybe the first time you click, like you said, suddenly page is not available, well, you haven't bookmarked it, whatever. So there's 100 million factors how this is most likely actually stratified. But anyways, yes.
Fuck, that's your opinion, man.
And that's the other thing, probably not just levels, but probably very intricate settings, weightings, and layers of how to do it exactly, which group to allow to interact with which group. And even here, they this was official, no, with Facebook, that they deliberately said, oh, we can recognize this group really hates that group. Let's expose them to each other as much as possible, so they go crazy and fight each other, you know? So, yeah.
So it's not a shadow ban. It's more like, what's another word for shadow? It's like a
twilight lockdown.
It's a twilight lockdown. There you go. I was gonna say an adumbration. Adumbration looks like a cool word. An adumbration. That's what YouTube is doing, bro. It's not a shadow ban. It's an adumbration.
So anyhow, this guy, as you can see, it's a long presentation. There's even a, I think, 4-hour version of this. This is more the cut together variant. But so somehow just someone interested themselves and said, oh, let's visit this Freemasons, because they somehow got invited. And then he realizes all they do is talk about infrastructure. And then after the meeting, I was like, oh, it's funny how he talks kind of. He's like, yeah, die haben uns nur verarscht. So he's like, yeah, they were just, bullshitting us. There's nothing. I mean, in the one hand, they said there is something there, so the lodge is real and so on. At the same time, he wasn't particularly enthralled by it, but he also noticed that, interestingly enough, they talked about infrastructure. So they had these maps and where to build a street and where not, and this and that. And of course, all kinds of important individuals there. And then only later he kind of realized, was like, well, this is kind of interesting, but which of these guys actually are elected to be talking about where to put a street or not, So even here on the very surface level, I mean, what to say about conspiracy or not, but what's funny or interesting is that these guys then, of course, mostly old guys, and they were like, oh, it's nice that you're here, this and that, but actually you're wrong, or not wrong, but you're at the wrong place, because here in the lodge, everyone's already reached their goals, they're all happy fat cats. Where you need to go, and that's of course interesting, we're going to send you to the Rotary Club. Yeah. So they said, oh, you have to go there, because that's, as it was, this is the official, how should I say, suspect or whatever for many years, that you have all these Lions clubs and whatever the BS they call it as a
hey man the world wouldn't go around without that cog. You need
obviously,
the Rotary Club.
Obviously.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I've been like the rainforest in like the middle of a jungle with my shirt rotting off my back, and there's a giant Rotary right in the middle of there'll be like a road that is one of those like Dutch style ones where they go around like a roundabout with a giant 20-meter Rotary cog in the middle of it. And that'll be like the intro to a town, yeah.
Yeah. So they're over the place. Then let's see. He's talking about, of course, all kinds of interesting connections, interesting individuals that already were renaming themselves many times, and basically how they managed to stack capital in certain ways, and then build up companies, make it seem like, oh, maybe this company is going to be big, people investing.
I'd push, like, I've been to the Rotary Club. I would recommend, if you have a free day of the week in your life, which you probably don't, because that's the way this works, use it to go to the Rotary Club, because you can go. You can ask someone to be a sponsor, like if you want to like join the Rotary Club. Like often, if you're wearing a suit, they're gonna let you into or rather, if you're wearing a like a pair of shorts and one of those pastel surfer shirts, even all of the Rotary Club meetings are the people who run your towns, like all of your towns. It's not as dark as it used to be, where you're like you have to go to a secret society thing. They're meeting at the Elks Lodge or something like that. And every week they're going to have someone come make a speech who's going to tell you about what they're doing in the town. And this is, literally, you'd be surprised how important your town is in the grand scheme of things, because somebody in the Rotary Club also is going to another Rotary Club. They're all connected around the world, right? And I don't mean that as like some like horrifying conspiracy. It kind of makes sense. Like people are working together because they're having dinner and lunch together because they own businesses and they have generational investments in their communities. But yeah, the Rotary Club is, you can know about it. You should go find out about it.
And what's also interesting here is he's basically mentioning, like, even to the simple research and first-hand witness that this guy had, just because he was one of the top shots in this one insurance or telecom company, and relevant, and I guess talking to different investors and so on, meeting different people, going to the World Economic Forum, this and that. So he kind of just sideways kind of slid into that and was just like, is there anything real to this supposed conspiracy? because apparently also he's been listening to this channel for many years, so he's been up to speed, I guess, on certain ideas. And what I want to say, yeah, what's interesting is that he's mentioning that oftentimes it seems to be a complete racket, also in the sense that basically whatever businesses the inner circles may be setting up, the quote-unquote outer circles are encouraged or even forced or whatever to invest along with it, right? So even here, some people may think, oh, I'm going to get there, I'm going to be important and so on. And yeah, maybe you're going to get some position and whatever, but still, yeah, of course, in one way or another, you're going to have to participate in the racket, even if it's just about financial things and investing in at the right time, investing in certain companies. And here there's this one example with a cobalt mine, actually, where he's explaining the connections a little bit and, you know, what happened in the back end. Yeah, just interesting, let's say, first-hand witness account from someone who's just economically somewhat successful and therefore got invited to some places and meet certain individuals, got to explain certain things. You don't have these witnesses account so often, especially not from someone who actually did not really participate in a secret meeting or anything like that, right? So someone who's just sideways glanced into it and was like, oh, apparently, you know, surprise, surprise, people are breathing together and making arrangements. Yeah, big surprise. And the World Economic Forum ticket is like 75K or something. But in his case, he said he had like a sponsor who kind of dragged him along and knew everyone and knew all the bouncers, so he didn't have to to pay anything or whatever. But yeah, I mean,
that's what we should do. I feel like you could figure out all the people who work the event, and we could wear some yellow jumpsuit, like a little orange vest, you know, and a flashlight, and we could go to the parking lot and just like wave at people.
Honestly, if you really wanted to, I even know someone who's hosting, how should I say, a building. I don't even know how you would call that then. He was hosting a location during the World Economic Forum. So
yeah, we should like skydive in, land in the lake, swim out, take off our wetsuits, be in tuxedos at the World Economic Forum, basically.
No, it's definitely possible. But in the end, I also have to say, from everything I've heard and seen and so on, I'm not sure if that's where the real change or whatever is happening.
Bro, they have free bugs.
Oh, I think they would even still have the real food. You know, someone
lobster and escargot are bugs. That's real food.
Well, then what else we have here? Yeah, I haven't checked it out yet. It was just recommended on a comment somewhere, and I was like, sounds like a crazy enough book to recommend it. Fundamentals of the Hyperborean Wisdom, complete English natural translation. But yeah, I haven't looked into it yet, so I really cannot talk about it. But I was like, oh, sounds like a very arcane book. Maybe something.
How old is it?
Interesting. Not very old. 1973.
Okay. Who is it from?
Nimrod de Rosario. Let's see, maybe we just get a table of contents. It's only 1,000 pages.
Only 1,000.
And it's so interesting it doesn't even load. So yeah, people check it out. Again, I can't talk.
You could probably go to the text only link on the right there. If you go down there, text, full text. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we have it in a format that's completely unreadable.
Oh, well, doesn't matter. So Philippe, better known as Nimrod Rosario, Argentinian writer.
Tyrrell Knights of the Argentine Republic. Letter to the Elect. I already like how it started. I read this part before. Letter to the Elect. Yes.
Nimrod's worldview is dualistic, many similarities with traditional Gnosticism, such as Manichaeism, Catharism, and Neoplatonism. He firmly believed in the existence of Atlantis, the lost continent from which two different races migrated westward after the cataclysm, extending two radically opposing doctrines. One, the followers of the liberator gods of Agartha, the loyal Siddhas, in Spanish, Siddhas Leales, erected the menhirs and cromlechs in ancient times in order to communicate with them and master the arts of the cold stone, the myth of the Grail as the stone, as described amongst others by Otto Rahn, is related to this, by the way, and others called Golans by Nimrod, who were part of the White Fraternity and worshipped another group of gods, the so-called treacherous Siddhas, Siddhas Traidores. These are the famous Anunnaki of the Sumerian mythology popularized by Zechariah Sitchin and others in recent times. So, yeah, people check it out. It's a really interesting book. It's very interesting. 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 It's
Yeah, so God knows. We can go on to something, well, that's supposedly a bit more well documented. So this is very, very interesting, at least to me, because I actually, the very first time I saw this was in school. I'm not sure if we watched all the parts. So what this is, I'll try to give the proper, yes, here we are. And we can do this in English. Oh, we can't? Of course, this is only in German. I'm sorry, guys. 1 second. So here we are. So
sneaky. That's how much work it took.
Exactly. So why is this interesting? And it's almost like this is, I want to say, the history of the New World in a sense, because even the little bit I could glean from whatever, all the war, Second World War, and, whatever destruction, propaganda, everything happened, it's at least an official way they talk about it is always like, oh, the people in Austria or Germany, they didn't really want to talk about the war. Because, of course, many people in one way or another were defeated, participating. They made the big denazification where they said, okay, you and you and you. Well, of course, some they first got through paperclip to the US. A few others, I guess, I don't know, were persecuted. And many, many, many people were basically let off the hook, for better or worse. And then also somehow for many decades, it seems no one really wants to talk about the history, or it's not, it's kind of swept under the rug. And then what's so curious is that I think in 1980 initially, the head of the Austrian Broadcasting Service basically said, why don't we do a proper film documentation about the history of Austria from, I guess, around 1900. So then what happened in 1989, they made the whole history of the First Republic from 1918 to 1938, and in actually 12 episodes. And then they also made something called Österreich 2. Here you have Austria 2, which is a documentation. Oh, this is actually then about the recent history. So this is the history from 1980 to 1995. Maybe this is the one we had watched in school. I'm not sure. But it's just, to anyone who's fractally interested in a story like this, or especially someone speaking German, I can kind of recommend watching this series. You can find it on YouTube. Some only have a few views because they were just re-uploaded. But if you enter the correct titles in German, you will find it. And it's just interesting to see like the officially sanctioned history in a pretty well-made production. And then especially if you know a bit more about different perspectives and so on, it's just interesting to piece it together. Like what things do they focus on? What maybe do they frame in a certain way? So that's interesting. And what I just wanted to show here, even in the very first episode, so Österreich 1, from an empire to a republic, what can you see here, Andreas?
Well, I see the Fez, I see the electric trolley. Is that what that is?
Probably. I didn't even think about the trolley so much, but even just those two things, I'm like, that's pretty interesting that even here, when they show us official old Austria,
yeah,
we see the Fez. Yeah?
Right.
It's like, that's pretty cool that even in this, super official documentary, that's what they show you. Of course, they don't talk too much about it as to why that would be and so on. But it's there. And then what's also interesting, you have this empress. She would have been the last empress of Austria, Zita. And at least, because it's so difficult with the languages, at least if that is halfway correct, we can say, okay, in 1900 or whatever, individuals in Austria apparently actually spoke German, whatever then that is exactly. But, because it's really difficult.
Well, at least the elite.
Well, exactly.
That doesn't really have anything to do with what the people are speaking.
You're correct.
Seriously. I mean, right? Because that'd be like saying like King George spoke German, so everyone in England spoke German. Like, I don't know. The king couldn't speak English in England, right?
So that's also, of course, interesting if you could maybe time capsule languages 50, 70 years and then later present and be like, oh, everyone always spoke it when maybe at the beginning only
there's
like
clearly
really,
something weird about Austria. Like the fact that Austrians speak with that accent kind of implies something changed in their language. I feel like.
You mean compared to German, or how do you mean?
Yeah, like German has different there's different words used, but there's also different, like the pronunciation of everything makes it sound like this is something that was taught to someone who used to speak a different way at some point. I mean, it's changed, things have happened, it's been generations, maybe hundreds of years, who knows, but it sounds like you got someone learning. Like it'd be like, why do people in California speak English different than people on the East Coast? Well, you've got a Latin influence versus a Dutch influence versus in the North a British influence. There's probably an accent that was from the old language, right? That seems the most logical reason.
Right, yeah. It's very possible. And what's of course always fascinating, especially in this like supposedly
like East Germany too, right? East Germany was probably not originally German. Who knows?
I mean, Aleman. So what can I say? Yeah.
Right.
But it's just fascinating here. And even when I watch those, it's difficult because, and even here, only because these people are having this parade here. Does that mean that the government and everything really was exactly the way they are now telling us? You know, I'm just, again, I'm not claiming either way, but I'm just now always looking at historical things and I was like, what if this was not just a movie production, you know? And how much effort is it really to do that? And how much has to be real? How many stories can you later change to make it fit your narrative and still show the same images? What I also always think of is that in these recordings, I mean, it's kind of apparent, but if you don't think about it, maybe you don't notice. I brought this up before, you never have original audio. And if you do, it's even marked, even on in this documentation, they mark it specifically. And otherwise you just have random things of whatever they added on later, which also means, conveniently enough, you cannot overhear any passerbys maybe speaking in a dialect that you wouldn't want them to speak, just what you mentioned right now. Yeah, because you don't have any audio, you don't really know how people were speaking. You just see these obviously government agents having their parade.
Right.
What does it, how much does it really tell us? Yeah. So, or even here, which is really crazy, you have pictures from the war and I'm like, what? They're really crazy. They have in a war and they're like literally filming people in the mountains. I mean, aside from the fact that if anyone told me like, oh, now go fight, they're in the effing ice. I mean, it's like going to, yeah, I think it's completely insane, but I'm not sure in what situation you could hate your neighbor enough that you would gonna go fight in the ice mountains and then supposedly have these, you know, positioning wars, and I don't know.
Some people love it, man. I was watching a video of a guy who's crying because he graduated from the United States military academy, whichever one, in 1976. So he just missed Vietnam. You know, so you have to imagine, like, if your life, you're like trained to believe like you have to do a thing, you're built for a thing, like that's your purpose. And so some of these people are like, they're growing up in the snow, like these are country people. They're like, hey, we're going to give you a new suit of Hugo Boss like clothing and put you out there in places you're familiar with because you got to protect them from somebody who wants to take it away from you. I feel like that's a real simple sell. Like, it depends. Like, again, you're not even selling snow to an Eskimo. It seems like even easier. Plus, the propaganda probably had really bomb music.
Oh, I'm sure, and especially if you imagine back then there wasn't even any smartphone or media, or even here it's pretty amazing. They even explain it and were like, I think even First World War still. But
yeah,
also
that's true. By World War I, by 1917, I think it was 50 million, at least in America, 50 million Americans a week, or was it a day? I think it might be a day. 50 million Americans a day watched movies. And then by 1924, I think it was 100 million a day. Because everyone was going to the movie theaters because it was so cheap.
For real, really big thing.
It was huge.
I was wondering if they really like could have had proper video propaganda then, but people were going to movies. All right. Okay,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just
Yeah, so
checking
and
it out.
even here, I mean, I'm not sure. There is a second example when when Germany takes over Austria in the Second World War. But even here, then always this cheap thing, like basically make sure that economically a people get destroyed over 20 years, or their economy gets beaten down, and then you come and literally you bring them some goulash, yeah, and because of course people hadn't had any work and so on. This is then more the Second World War, but I guess First World War probably similar. Of course, people are first they're happy and like, oh, economic upturn, all of that, and of course it's associated with military production as well. And then in the end, what do you have? You have slaughtered youth on all sides. And I'm like, it's really sick if you take these case examples and just neutrally you look at both sides, the propaganda and everything, and really just see it as a meta thing. The end result is just people get hurt for what? Yeah. So
Okay,
yeah.
so the population of the United States in the 1920s to 30s reached 123 million, right? So that's like well over, that's crazy, right? Like that that's a crazy amount of the population to be watching movies all the time. But like granted, these are shorter movies. People are standing up often when they go through a Nickelodeon. Like you just go in, stand there, there's a movie playing and it loops a cartoon and then a newsreel. And this is all silent. It's not even like this isn't even as big of a deal until 28, 29, when all of a sudden like sound and talkies start happening. And talkies, it's even bigger for a while. But I mean, during the Depression, while movies became more popular, the watching of them every day dropped down. So it became more of a weekly phenomenon or bi-weekly phenomenon. But in the 20s, it was the golden age of cinema. And so everyone was seeing movies all the time, which is just insane to think about.
Indeed, yeah. I think it's just fascinating, these old images, trying to understand what really happened.
Also, these remind me of
and even
Romans, right?
And even here, I'm not sure if it's in this episode, but even here there is a storming of the parliament, and I was like, oh, how funny is like January 6th, but happened 100 years ago in Austria. You know? So it's always the same tropes, and it really makes you wonder, because especially here with the First Republic, basically the First Republic was mainly led by communists. So that's the other thing, you know. So you can be like, oh yeah, we got rid of the emperor and oppressive whatever, and then the main guys taking over are the communists, which apparently then, 15 years F around, then you have 5 years the proto-fascistic, Austro-fascistic state, and then the Nazis come in. I'm like, great. Yeah, like this, yeah. But anyhow, it's a fascinating story, and it's just really interesting to know like the mainline version of it. So anyone who wants to check that out, I can recommend it. It's like 12 hours total.
In the early period, right? Like, so Caesar's recitations were essential to the Romanization of colonies. So anywhere they conquered, they would read, the words of Caesar every day, like a newspaper aloud, like, and everyone would have to hear it like it was God, right? And this was a big part of the Romanization. Like, you learn the language first off, and then you understand like what the whole empire is thinking, and it's unifying the way that everyone's looking at everything, right? This is effective.
Oh yeah, yeah. I know what's also curious is even back then, at least in the images, they already, of course they have the cross, so it's already Christian, right? Even though the decorations look curious. Yeah.
Yep, definitely. So there's definitely some Arabic influence going on.
Yeah. So anyhow, just I can't summarize 100 years of Austrian history now, but again, anyone who wants to,
I saw it flash before your eyes, though.
Yeah, learn the mainline thing. Yeah, because I just rewatched this. It's very, very interesting, certainly. Then let's see, or can we go on? So this is the Austria one. Let's see. So this goes up to Second World War, and then there is also Austria too, as I mentioned, which is more about the recent history. And yeah, right. What I wanted to bring up here is they did a remake in 2013, like maybe with more commentary and so on. But the main thing I wanted to point out here is that imagine they waited until 1989. This is the year I was born, where they said like, okay, let's do a proper movie documentation. And they even said that when they started researching this, which is also very suspicious to me, they said, oh, actually, we don't have lots of the documents anymore. And then they had to go to the Allies and who else to like collect all kind of footage. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but I'm a nation state. Isn't the first thing I'm going to make sure of to have proper documentation of my grand heritage and whatever? And I'm not, it reminds me of these NASA tapes or whatever, you know, like how can I lose any of the documentation in between and not make sure even after the war and I have peace, the first thing I'm going to do is collect all the info, even just to make positive patriotic propaganda for my own country or whatever. Why am I waiting 30, 40 years and then I have to collect the things again? Yeah, this is very strange to me, at least. Yeah, here this is what I found. There's more interview of this old the last empress, and she's basically saying how she went to all these nice places as a child and how it was all very nice, which I'm sure it was as the royal family, right? And she's talking about the old emperor, which is also interesting because at least she seems to be honest there. So at least there was this important family living in Vienna. Who knows? Yeah. But then again, what's the difference between that and what's a good example? I want to say Bruce Lee, no, but like, actor, political actor, let's say. Then here, one more image, which I somehow found in conjunction with this. This is, I think, supposedly around 1900, somewhere in does this even look Hebrew? This is even supposed, I think, Sarajevo or something, or like somewhere in the Balkan region.
That makes sense.
But still part of the Austrian Empire. And here, supposedly, they say someone is reading the proclamation. I think, I don't know even what proclamation exactly. But again, here, interesting, you have the fez everywhere. And here you have decidedly German advertisement. But then here on top, it's here even really apparently in Hebrew and in modern Arabic script with diacritics as well. So I was just like,
things have always been pretty chill in Bosnia. It's like it used to be just anybody could interact. It was like a openness policy.
Yeah, pretty cool. And of course also the way it looks like, at least this is a nice old world building, or who else has
it looks just like any building today. Exactly.
Well, in Vienna, yes, if you're in the proper district, but
yeah.
So then here also somehow I came across this, right? This is the Austrian or the sigil of Vienna, which also very, at least to me, suspiciously was first standardized only in 1870. This is the similar time when the Linien Wall, so the basically Stafford Wall, started to be torn down in Vienna. So again, yeah, very strange to me. Why does all of this take so long? Just like with all the football clubs, they all get founded around this time, just as if, how should I say? Let's just say new customs were introduced around that time. Here, of course, they claim the proto versions of this are 500 years old. Of course, difficult to date back. Yes. They have more nice... And actually, the original sigil for Vienna was actually the double-headed eagle, interestingly enough. I mean, how much more Masonic does it get? The current version only has a one-headed eagle. Oh yeah, and here, pretty cool. Actually, you have... Can we get this bigger? Not really.
Oh, it's all of them at one.
It's like all the districts of Vienna, and they all have their quite interesting, different variants and emblems. Here you have a moon, for example. Rustendorf. I wish it was a bit bigger.
Which one is the yellow shield with the black horse? Top left.
Kaiser Ebersdorf. Yeah, of course, here they give you nice stories from 500 years ago and something about the Turkish siege. But even
That's
here
neat.
it says Second Turkish Siege, but here you can still clearly see, I mean, no one dare it call a star fort, okay? I mean, what is this? So that's official.
Wow.
Yeah.
These are our towns now. We're the founders.
Exactly. Obviously, we found it. And then, yes, just because mandatory recommendation every time, Sergei Belabor's channel, the translations for Anatoly Fomenko and Gleb Nosovsky's work, highly recommended. This, for example, one, Math to Fight Lies, where Fomenko explains his methods. Oh, actually, I have to say I like he reminds me of someone with these eyebrows.
My God. Is he aware? What's he doing? That's so Aquino, yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Pretty
I don't know what
fun.
to think about that.
So explaining his methods, of course, relevant, use mathematics and statistics to show potential patterns and forgeries in history. And then I think that's already the last thing pretty much. I'm sure you knew about this, but I was like, I didn't know they were the first LGBTQ flag wearing. Of course, it's a military operation.
You got to imagine, like, what would give you more element of surprise than to show up full infantry, 42nd Infantry Division, and stunning makeup with rainbow machine guns.
Because this is even today still the shave, so like the US, none dare call it occupation. So the US, I don't know how they would call it. What is the name? US Allied
Peacekeeping, bro.
Assistance Peace. No, it's not even peacekeeping. But anyways, the Shave forces, they have this like sort of Michael, I guess, with the rainbow. I mean, then according to Didier Lacapelle, it's even possible that Archangel Michael and the Prophet Muhammad have some kind of connection. I mean, then anyhow, I'm out of it. I don't know anymore. But
it's interesting. It's only 3 colors also: red, yellow, blue, rainbow.
Yeah, and it's the 42nd. I mean, 42nd also is a conspicuous number. And it's the Rainbow Division of the United States Army National Guard. And it was formed in World War I. And then it apparently dissolved in between. And they came back for the Second World War. And I'm just like, isn't that curious? Why would you?
Because war is gay.
And they have the fleur de lis with, fleur de lis with rising sun.
Click on it and control plus will increase the size. Yeah.
I mean, this is a super New World Order symbol if I ever saw one, I have to tell you. I'm sorry.
War is gay. Military is the gayest thing possible.
I guess that's the answer. Oh yeah, and here this is just music recommended from a friend. Anyone who wants to check out Greek music by this guy.
Yes, and us. We're just joshing you. We could talk about the seventh heaven. We'll do that sometime. I brought up the the first 3, and people started yelling on Base AF. People started yelling, not the hosts, but in the chat. They're just like, "You're an apostate," blah. So I just figure.
You mean Seventh Heaven, the sitcom?
No, I mean like that's a good point, right? Like you gotta imagine like Christians get all upset when you talk about the idea of multiple intimacies to God and closeness to heaven, proximity to the source, right? They're like, wait, isn't it all supposed to be just one thing? Like, well, no. Paul talks about the third heaven. You guys have a show apparently called the seventh heaven. I feel like that's more of a Persian idea though, right? Isn't seventh heaven like a Persian thing from like Zoroastrianism? But there are the ideas of levels. The Tibetans also, and like the Buddhists, have this idea of different levels of planes of existence, right? So I don't know. Just some people don't like it. They're like, no, man, there's a gate, and once you get in, it's Woodstock. Like it's Burning Man, like you're in heaven. Like, okay, makes you happy.
Yeah, I'm still wondering which side of this whole thing we're actually on, but yeah.
Yeah, good point.
The truth shall prevail. What can I say?
We're in line. That's true.
Thank you, Andreas. I think that's all for today.
Well, that was pretty good. I appreciate it, Raph. Let's definitely see you guys next week. We're going to do another Neuropa. I think we're going to have 13th Monkey.
Oh, yeah. That's going to be good. Yes.
Yeah. So we're excited about that. All right.
Thanks
See you guys
so much,
also.
Andreas, and congratulations on the 100K. And cool. let's see what happens to the plaque.
Yeah. Let's see. And yeah, see you guys tonight. We'll keep trying. Wednesday Ultra, Advanced Philosophy Memes, whatever it is. We'll see you there.
This next story has been suppressed by mainstream media. Let's go